If you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts or a crisis, please reach out immediately to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Call or text 988. These services are free and confidential. Welcome to T. Lokes, Tucson's local business podcast. I'm your host, L. Connor McEverly, and in each episode, we embark on a journey to connect with the passionate minds behind the businesses and nonprofits that make our community thrive. Join me as I sit down with the owners, visionaries, and change makers who pour their hearts into shaping the local landscape. We explore the challenges, triumphs, and unique journeys that define Tucson's business community. From the corner coffee shop to the innovative startups and impactful nonprofits, T. Lokes is your window into the diverse stories that make our city special. Tune in and get ready to get connected. This is T. Lokes. Howdy, folks, and welcome to T. Lokes, your Tucson local business podcast. I'm your host, L. Connor McEverly, and joining me via virtual chat today is the owner of Levity Wellness Center, a group who is dedicated to providing holistic wellness services to promote balance and well-being. It is my pleasure to introduce to the show the owner of Levity Wellness, Jason Krauss. Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Connor. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
So let's hear more about Levity Wellness. Tell me about Levity Wellness. What's your mission? What set you on it?
Yeah, so Levity Wellness is a local first physical and emotional wellness center located right near the University of Arizona. In fact, we walk to McHale Center often from the spa. Nice. So we are right in the heart of downtown near Speedway and Campbell. We offer flotation therapy, which is something unique here in the Tucson area, as well as massage and stretch therapy, breath work, and IV treatments through Valley IV.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys really offer a whole lot. And I had the pleasure of being able to tour your facility. It's a very, very comfortable space. I mean, from the building, like that traditional adobe with the wood ceilings, the smell is very comforting, very clean. Just it's a really nice place. And if you don't mind, can you tell me a little bit more about how you came into this space and what set you on this mission?
Absolutely. Well, and thank you. We work very hard to keep that space to be very inviting and comforting. We know that when it comes to somebody's wellness, emotional or physical, that it's serious business and that you're trusting someone in a vulnerable state. So we take a lot of pride in that. And really, where Levity came from, we are not the original owner. We had a predecessor who we're actually good friends and peers with still, who was a licensed massage therapist. And she actually introduced me locally to floating here in Tucson, and that's where I began floating here in Tucson locally. It's been part of my practice since 2014 on a regular basis, that just to get into the tank and unplug, kind of regulate my stress, get to a point of, as some would call it, maybe centered or calm, or really just in a better state of mind and a better mood and better able to make good decisions. So floating became part of my practice long before ownership. And post-pandemic, the prior owner expressed that she was tired. It was a lot to manage through, and there were a lot of competing opinions and everything else that came with the pandemic that just really exhausted her by herself doing it alone. And so my wife and I were given the opportunity to take on the business. And within days of her offering me the spa, my day job offered me a bonus for nearly the same dollar amount.
Wow.
And as some may call it fate, kismet, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, it felt too obvious that it was very much in the cards for us to take this on. And I will tell you, as a client, I really enjoyed the therapy and I enjoyed what it did for me. And I was very lucky to have found it. As an owner, the gratitude that has come from being on the other side of the desk is immeasurable. I knew as a client the impact that it had. Now seeing that as an owner and seeing numerous folks come through, and my wife and I both being able to really see the journey that has started for other folks, to chasing dreams, to embracing traumas, to accepting things that have happened in their life, to even just finding a better state of mind on a regular basis. It really it's such a fantastic thing to be in the business of people's well-being, and especially with their well-being in mind,
Yeah.
really truly, on multiple levels, because I think that massage and some of these holistic or alternative treatments, if you will, or Eastern medicine, as some kind of lump a lot of things together too, it's not necessarily fair to do so, because there is so much science behind what your stress does to you.
Right.
So imagine if, instead of chasing after the symptom that you're going through from a health perspective with your doctor, you managed your stress and your diet first. What happens to that symptom? So I'm not saying it's a perfect science. I'm definitely not saying it's a cure all. And I guarantee no level of. But I think life is a lot about balance. And so with balance comes managing your stress as much as managing your health. It is an aspect of your health.
Absolutely. And with a lot of these wellness things, I tend to notice that a lot of it is about practices and mindfulness. It's coming back and trying to, find that wellness within yourself. So one cannot say it's like the cure all, it's perfect 100%. There's like, but it's the practice, it's the mindfulness, it's the showing up, it's the releasing of the stress and becoming more um centered and becoming more centered
Absolutely.
within yourself. So
Yeah.
maybe just for some of our listeners
Sure.
who aren't aware of what a float is, what is a float?
So a float is a oversized bathtub, tank, or other sort of cabin or capsule that holds anywhere north of 100 gallons of water and
Okay.
over 1,000 pounds of salt, typically right around that amount, about a half ton of medical grade magnesium, essentially medical grade magnesium sulfate, which is your Epsom salt, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my grandfather and my dad, you ever sprained your ankle, you soaked it in Epsom salt in a hot bath. Well,
Yeah.
that was 5 pounds of salt. We're putting 1,000 pounds in a tub that you soak in for an hour.
Right.
And so the health benefits in how that is dermally or through the skin absorbed for magnesium is one of the healthiest ways to take it on. It's
Interesting.
also one of the only ways that is recommended that pregnant women take on any level of magnesium, because it can be toxic in supplemental form during pregnancy.
So interesting.
So floating is a way to still get some magnesium without being toxic. Uh, Additionally, the impacts that it has had on stress levels and proven on stress levels, the interesting piece that comes about is the repeatable sense of calm. And what they meant by that is that once you've been in a state of such low stress levels and in a state of comfort and security to where your heart rate and your fight or flight is completely asleep, so to say, and
Yeah.
you can really allow the imagination to come forth what the brain does for itself. And it hasn't been fully explored. We're part of a 501c3 that is starting to fund towards a lot of research behind what is it doing completely.
Right.
But the results that we're seeing in different areas when it is applied like a intentional therapy have been wildly successful. So to come full circle with a float, it is body temperature or skin temperature water, skin temperature air. That water has roughly 1,000 pounds of salt to 100 gallons of water. The water itself is also kept at the same temperature
Nice.
intentionally, so that the mind loses sight of where the air begins and the water ends, and you in between.
Nice.
And in a state of relaxation, and from someone from experience in spending hundreds of hours in these tanks, you find this space of body awareness, of just calm, that is very easy to escape to without the negative connotation of escape.
Right.
It is your place of peace. This is my inner sanctum, however you wish to describe it, or
Yeah.
however you wish to kind of coin that thought process. But I've always joked to it as tank honesty. There is a layer of yourself that you're truly only present with daily, yourself. It's not often exposed.
Hmm.
And in the tank, it's almost a little bit of freedom for that true sense of self. Not
Right.
necessarily that you're letting out some secret, but that you don't have to hide who you are. That
Yeah.
there's no, oh, the boss is coming. Oh, is that a police officer behind me? Oh,
Right.
is mom coming over? Right.
Yeah.
So we all have little bits of behavior we change based off of our environment. And to be in an environment where there is no change to make
Mhm.
is very freeing in an interesting way. So it becomes not only, wow, I'm weightless, my back feels great, and I'm absorbing a ton of magnesium in a good way, but
Yeah.
also I'm dealing with some of the things. I'm able to peel away some of the layers of maybe tension or stress I've been holding to put on an act because my boss has really been on me lately,
Right.
or whatever the case may be.
Sure. I mean, all of us live very busy and complex lives. And so to
Mm-hmm.
be able to step out of all of the buzz and get a moment to reflect and really be with ourselves, I can see that being a fantastic therapy.
Absolutely.
Howdy, listener. Are you also a podcaster seeking to stand out in the crowded audio landscape? I'm here to help. L. Connor Voice, LLC offers top-tier audio engineering, meticulous content management, and more, all tailored to save you time and elevate your podcast to new heights of professionalism. With L. Connor Voice, you can focus on what you do best, creating captivating content, while I handle the rest. Say goodbye to hours spent tweaking audio levels and managing uploads. I ensure your podcast shines with polished sound quality and seamless delivery. Ready to take your podcast to the next level? Contact L. Connor Voice, LLC today and make producing your podcast as easy as hitting record. For more information, go to lconnorvoice.com. Links are in the episode notes.
And, clearly you have a lot of experience with float tanks, and I know that wellness has not always been your career path. So I'm curious, what drew you to float tanks? And can you tell me about an experience that it really locked in how impactful the practice of floating is?
Absolutely. So you're right. I did not grow up and say, I want to own a float shop.
Yeah.
In retrospect, it'd be a lot cooler if I had. However, like I predicted it or something. No, funny enough, my first job was at Miraval, one of my first jobs. And I worked as a Swiss Army knife in the restaurant and worked my way up into management.
Right.
But mindfulness and wellness and self-care was a big part of that career path there. And also treating everyone from the 7, 8, 9-figure individuals to the back of the house staff the same. Being able to have Schlitz with the dishwashers and then tighten up the tie and go have Dom with one of the guests because they insist.
Right.
Right. So to be capable of being that authentic of a person in any setting and not putting anyone above or below you, it was a very, very huge piece of what my character development kind of kicked off as, and into what led to me being, I was a sommelier at one point, I was a restaurant manager, and then I landed, of all places, in the mortgage industry and started as a loan officer selling loans. And now, fast forward 18 years later, I'm a vice president for a non-bank lender nationally, and I do a lot of their identity access piece as my day job.
Gotcha.
But how did I come to float again becomes a question. And I actually found it in Portland, stumbled across it on the last night of a anniversary trip.
Okay.
We just, when we go on anniversary trips, we typically pick a city we've never been to and we just explore. No plans, find the cool things, do the fun things, eat the good food. That's how we like to spend our trips. Explore.
Yeah.
And in Portland, I found the float shop on the last night. And they're one of the first and they're one of the best. Dylan and Sandra Calm, Calm, how completely fitting.
Yeah.
They're wonderful folks. They run an incredible shop if you're ever in Portland and need a float. And that's where I first floated. And I had such a vivid daydream-like experience in this darkened, warm, womb-like tub. I came downstairs to my wife and went, oh my God, I have to find that in Tucson. What was that?
Yeah.
It was so wildly exciting to be that close to my imagination again. It was like, hold on, I got to find this again.
Yeah.
And so I found one shop here in Tucson in someone's house on the west side that I had a good float,
Mm.
very nice, clean tank. But I really wanted more interaction with additional modalities, including massage.
Right.
And when we found Levity in 2016, the owner being a massage therapist and having the tank, it was just a great setup for us. And we really loved the atmosphere, as you mentioned, very
Yeah.
cozy, wood ceilings, adobe walls, just
Yeah.
this very insulated, comforting feeling to it. And
Absolutely.
I floated there for 4 years before we bought the business. And within that time frame, I sat up out of bed and broke my neck. So and it's such a wild sentence to say it now, but
Yeah.
being completely recovered from it, it's just wild to even mutter the words. But I
Right.
quite literally sat up out of bed. My wife and I both heard, and it didn't hurt. We both looked at each other, just, what was that?
Yeah.
I took a couple ibuprofen. I went to work.
Yeah.
By the end of the day, I had lost most of the feeling in my like left three kind of wing, the index, middle, and thumb on my
Yikes.
left hand, all the way up to my neck, and had crazy pain going on. And 9 days later, I had spinal surgery, and in the process of was over prescribed, and maybe I was prescribed. I can't say that I was over.
Right.
I was prescribed pain medication to be able to manage through this whole process.
Right.
And by the time I had my surgery, I was already hooked. Sleepwalking for the pain meds, getting up out of bed even after that surgery without help to go find my pain medication because it was so deeply ingrained that quickly.
Wow.
So by day 4 after spinal surgery, I actually flushed all my pain medication,
Wow.
went cold turkey because it was scary. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been hooked on it before, so I was familiar through other surgeries, but I knew it right away. I could feel kind of its teeth in me, so to
Yeah.
say. And as soon as the scar on my neck healed, I was in the tank every week and a massage right after to follow. I got very serious with my physical therapy. I got very serious with my diet. And within 4 years of my surgery, I was in better health and shape than I had ever been,
Wow.
despite the hardware in my neck.
Right.
And so I don't credit it just to floating. It's the human enterprise and the human effort, the
Right.
spirit that puts us into those prosperous positions. Right? We have to do the work to get there.
Right.
It is a marvelous tool when it comes to down regulating your stress, getting rid of some of those chronic aches and pains,
Right.
giving you some space for yourself, and being able to recenter and say, I got this. No matter what it is and how you do it or what you're doing, it gives you that space to reaffirm to yourself that I've got
Well, that's quite an experience, and I mean, I mean I don't know how else to put it. I mean, that's a wild experience, and I think that it seems like such a glowing testimonial to the practice of floating. To know that, yes, there's a lot of that human perseverance within you. Like you had to make those choices to go and to float, but the fact that you were able to do that and you gained back so much health, you
Yeah.
prioritized that, and really getting this myriad benefit of a clear mind, of lower stress, of increased magnesium, and probably some form of muscle relaxation as well too,
Oh,
just
for sure.
floating. um and also quite an interesting story too, to have a float in Portland, find a place in Tucson, and then years later love floating and that mission of wellness so much to then purchase it, um, with the benefit of fate, to,
Seriously.
so I mean, it definitely seems like that mission really crystallizes, getting this really beautiful picture of your path and what brought you to Levity. You know, Once you had purchased the company, what would you say is one of these like first impactful moments of achievement once Levity was yours?
Um, wow. There's been a couple. Um, I could say there have been some small wins to, you know, helping my own family, my own son regulate their stress. Um, very small wins, but really for a big win and something that kind of reaffirmed to Lindsay and I why we do what we do. Um, we were watching the Olympic trials from the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. And of course, as most of you know, this was kind of tail end or mid kind of peak, I guess, actually, of the pandemic itself. And so that timing in 2020 was very interesting. And so my wife and I were watching the Olympic trials, and Delaney Schnell here locally, a U of A high diver, um, we were watching her dive, and the commentator made a comment about how her coach told her to stop drinking caffeine to help manage her stress.
Right.
And me doing what I do for a living here with Levity, jokingly said, she needs a float as I walked into the other room.
Right.
And my wife, being my wife, said, maybe she does.
Yeah.
And immediately found her on Instagram and messaged her. And fast forward a few weeks later, she's in our float tank.
No way.
Because her strength coach said, get in that tank. It is going to help you with your stress. And it's going to help you to visualize what you're doing on that platform. Now, I'm not a betting man, so I don't know what the Vegas lines look like, but I don't believe that her and her partner were projected to finish on the podium, much less second. And they performed incredibly well in the face of a tough dive prior to the final dive.
Yeah.
And so, do I credit it to floating? Not necessarily.
Right.
But to be part of somebody's journey to over exceed what everyone in the world even thought of you.
Right.
Because you were able to have that space to work on yourself and work on your craft. That was a very cool moment for us.
Yeah.
Same with the U of A football team last year. We had their running back room and their wide receiver room in our tanks quite a bit.
Nice.
And they went from doing okay to doing great and playing great ball. Again, I can't take great credit for all of that, but to be part of it is an honor and a privilege. And it's a lot of fun knowing that we can help these kids, because ultimately they are kids. These are young athletes that have stress and school and trying to figure out relationships and this crazy digital world we live in.
Right.
They, as much as us, need that space. And so to be part of that and help to kind of humanize our world and make a space to where you can really be equitable and just enjoy your own time and make your own recovery path. We've been thrilled to be part of it. So we're very excited to continue forward. And with some of these wins like that, we hope that it affords us the ability to grow.
Yeah, I hope so too, because that's really awesome. And
Thank you.
That's really cool. That's a fantastic moment of achievement. I mean, yeah, that's really awesome to be a part of that. Um, and it's kind of got me thinking, right? Like the taking on the practice of floating, right? Like you you first were curious and you liked wellness, but then you used it to recover from an injury. And then we have these athletes who are using it to help reduce their stress, So it seems like there's a lot of different applications and
Mhm.
wellness does not fit really inside one box, right? But what might be some signs or something what might be some signs or what might someone be experiencing that indicates that they should reach out to you?
The first, and I am so glad you asked this question, because I think the first piece that to me that comes to mind is don't wait till crises. Even if it's just a nagging hip pain, a nagging low back pain, a bum calf that constantly gets bound up. Massage is huge for that. So is sauna. Float helps a lot with sore muscles and water retention. We've had clients say, "Man, my calves always get swollen after bed, but last night after my float, they didn't." So there's a lot of what float and that Epsom exposure does for you that we're trying to fund that research. And in the meantime, we know we have this great tool that so far has been proven safe by the National Health Institute as a useful tool to deal with anxiety, depression, and that also kind of helps to encompass eating disorders and addiction recovery, a lot of stress-based conditions. And so when it comes to that, if you are enduring stress where you're having to tell yourself, I'll be fine
Yeah.
in spite of something, don't wait till crises. Don't wait till you're not fine. Give yourself some of that space so that you don't have to bottom out to try and pick yourself back up. And that's physically and mentally, right?
Yeah.
We also, as a business, are very, very keen to the fact that suicide is a massive problem in our country, and it's an epidemic in and of itself. If you know someone that's struggling, first off, their health professional,
Yeah.
or at least a health professional that can help guide them. But we're also happy to help if it's something that the individual, first off, feels safe doing and is willing to try. We want to be a resource to our local Tucsonans in that way.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, it seems like you take so much pride in taking good care of the people who walk through your door seeking that wellness. Um, so that's really a wonderful way to kind of to gauge, for the listeners out there, when is a good time to go. So that makes a lot of sense. And I've overheard you say a couple times that you have been working with researchers to get some
Mhm.
more, I guess, empirical evidence of the benefits. And I mean, that kind of ties in with a question that I have for you, which is like, what are some goals that you are striving for your future with Levity Wellness?
Yeah. So, with the nonprofits that we work with and the researcher that we're currently in conversation with, we're trying to drive towards more of an understanding of all of the great things that float is capable of helping with and the applications for it. We're toying with the idea of how do we technologize some of this? How do we add affirmation or coaching to this in a way that helps the individual get to a better state and really do some of the work without feeding them the answer,
Right.
right? Asking you the question, not feeding you the answer.
Right.
As well as other modalities of wellness in sound therapies, right? Maybe some folks, the absence of everything is terrifying,
Yeah.
but something vibrational or music might be very interesting. So we try to stay very open minded to logical forms of wellness that have the most impact and are worth someone's time and money. And knowing that everyone that comes into the building for a treatment leaves feeling better than they did when they walked in. And that pride there is the fact that I was treated in that way when I needed it the most.
Right.
And I think that there is a huge amount of strength in your own vulnerability in knowing that you have to recover, right?
Yeah.
The generation prior to us making sure that Sunday was holy, not only for other reasons,
Yeah.
but for recovery. Because if I don't rest today, I'm not going to be able to get up tomorrow to do that hard manual labor that I did. And it wasn't necessarily that the generation prior to us made that as wellness or recovery, or it was logic.
Yeah.
It was, if I don't do this, I'm not going to make it for very long, and
Right.
pacing themselves, right?
Yeah.
So it's a new generation. We have new tools to it. And I think that, as the business that we're in, I've seen it work for myself. And I want it to be the best experience for everybody that we have come in for those same reasons. That if you're struggling through something, there are resources to help with it.
Right. Absolutely. And that makes me think more, I mean, about your dedication to bringing wellness to people. When I came to visit and get that tour, we talked a little bit about some kind of like outreach programs or some help programs that you wanted to get started. Would you
Mhm.
be willing to kind of talk about that a little bit? Is that
Sure.
is that still too in the works or?
No, there's a couple irons in the fire there that we're working on. And first off, there's a local nonprofit by the name of Survivor Shield,
Okay.
and their CEO Jake Martin is just a fantastic organization. We've had a chance to talk with them several times. Jake and Rebecca over there are wonderful people. I'm happy to plug them. Um, they will be working with us. Essentially, we're crediting them 2 floats a month
Okay.
to whomever they wish to nominate those to.
Hmm.
Um, and then as well supporting them for their yearly gala. We also hope to be working with some of the other local nonprofits that we network with here locally in the near future for similar aspects, right? Being able to provide resources or being able to provide therapies so that we can actually help to really benefit those that need it the most.
Yeah.
Um, it's an interesting space that we live in here in Tucson, and I think that now myself as a local business owner, it is important because I've seen it over the years with the local businesses that have succeeded. Your involvement in the community, your willingness to be part of the Tucson community is a big part of your success. It's not what you're selling or how you sell it. It's who you are in the community. What do you add? What value do you bring to this community?
Right.
And to me, it's important to be part of that. Whether I'm selling, retail or like what we do with wellness here, it is
Yeah.
kind of unique. But
Absolutely.
I would say that for a lot of folks, I think the float piece is more intimidating than it needs to be. Come get a massage. Come sit in the sauna. Come check out some of the other services that maybe you're more comfortable with and get a look and feel for the float tanks. Or even just call, can I stop by at a certain time and check
Right.
this out? Because we want folks to be comfortable. We want to be part of the community. And the folks that we do have as regular clientele, it's like hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
It's great to see everybody. It's most of our regular clientele greet Gordon and the others there with a hug. Um, it's just a great little spot, and we're very lucky.
Yeah. It sounds it sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like you have a really dedicated team. It's very clear that you're dedicated to bringing wellness to the community and the people in Tucson. Um, yeah, it seems like you just have a great mission, a great atmosphere, a great mindset to bring about wellness for folks. And that's really amazing.
Thank you. We
uh,
we put in a lot of hard work.
Absolutely, no doubt. Uh, running a business is never not hard work.
That is correct.
So, for those who want to learn more about Levity Wellness, who want to talk to you guys, want to hear your insights, where can they go to learn more?
Yeah. So if you are on any of the socials or friendly with social media, we are on Facebook and Instagram as Levity Wellness. You can find us on both those. It's probably easiest, though, to find us at our website, which is levityrising.com.
Okay.
On levityrising.com, you can book appointments, you can buy gift cards, you can find all the information about our tanks. There are brief videos of the tanks themselves. There's podcasts that I've done in the past. There's media from other float tanks and national media outlets. So most of the good stuff is there on levityrising.com.
Perfect.
Um, and as far as contacting us by phone, you're welcome to call us 520-339-6674, or you can also text if you're part of our generation that just wants to text and see what you have available. You are more than welcome to.
Perfect. Perfect. And folks, we will have links for those in the show notes. So if you need just a quick reference, go ahead and check those out and get in contact with Jason and his team. So, Jason, we're coming close to the end of our time here. It's been really awesome talking to you and hearing about your experiences and what you offer the folks of Tucson. And now I have one final question for you, the question I ask everybody. What is one thing out of the many that you love about Tucson?
Mm, the people.
The people.
It's the people. Uh, Born and raised here. I was born in '83 on the east side at TMC in the middle of summer. So it doesn't get a whole lot more Tucson than that.
Right?
Uh, Born and raised here. I've had opportunities to leave. I've never taken them because Tucson is home. It will always be home. And it's funny, the quick story that I'll end with is sitting in the airport with my wife. Before we even got to the gate, we were able to pick out that flight's going to Tucson. You can tell who the people are in this town. It is a such a rich, diverse place, and I have done a fair share of travel now in my life, and I still will always call Tucson home.
Yeah. Tucson is an amazing place, and the people that comprise it is part of what makes it so great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, Jason, thank you so much for being on the show today and talking all about your dedication to bringing wellness to the folks of Tucson and beyond. So I really appreciate having you here today, and thank you so much.